Let's talk about a guy who has gotten more flowers than a pretty girl on Valentine's Day. Lamar Jackson has been sensational. He has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL as I continue to pull up his exact stats because I don't want to mess up anything when it comes to how good Lamar Jackson has been for the Baltimore Ravens. As yesterday they walked into M&T Bank Stadium, their home stadium, and put a beatdown on the Miami Dolphins, 56-19. Lamar Jackson, 18 for 21, 321 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 picks, 95 QBR, and a perfect passer rating. You know, I tweeted this, and this takes me all the way back to last week where I didn't have a show. There was a lot of things going on. It just didn't happen. But Lamar Jackson, at first, this time last week, went into San Francisco, into Santa Clara, as a touchdown underdog with a backup tight end in Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, a rookie wide receiver who has shown some promise, but also the drops at times, that's fair to say, Odell Beckham Jr., who has been good the past couple of weeks, but he's still not the same Odell Beckham that he used to be. Rashad Bateman, who has largely not really panned out as the first-round wide receiver they thought he would be out of Minnesota, and walked into Santa Clara as a touchdown underdog to Brock Purdy, in which everyone was clamoring he was the MVP, in which he had CMC, Kyle Shanahan, the better offensive coach, and it's not close, although John Harbaugh is a good coach, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, an all-pro left tackle, and crumbled in the likes of Lamar Jackson. That is what the difference was between Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy. He dismantled them. There was no argument on who the better quarterback was. Lamar Jackson went into San Francisco with less weapons and the worst offensive head coach and put a shellacking on the 49ers. And then Lamar Jackson, similarly, this week, although he was home and although he was favored by a couple of points, Tua Tagovailoa is a good quarterback. But when he has Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, a good left tackle in Armstead, again, the better offensive head coach in Mike McDaniel, it doesn't matter. The difference is the Grand Canyon. The difference between Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy and Tua Tagovailoa is the Grand Canyon. Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson are not close. It is not even in the same stratosphere. And then Tua Tagovailoa and Lamar Jackson. Tua, who is very similar to Brock Purdy to me in a lot of ways, it's the Grand Canyon. I have never been more wrong in a quarterback in Lamar Jackson. I don't know what it was. I thought I saw. But I'm always okay with being able to admit I was wrong. Absolutely being able to admit. You have to be willing to admit your mistakes if you ever want to get it right in this business. I was so wrong on Lamar Jackson. I mean, I didn't think he was a very good pure thrower of the football. That has completely changed. He's a great thrower of the football now. He has become a lethal runner, but not only a really good runner, but something Josh Allen has never picked up in his time in the NFL. It almost seems like Lamar Jackson's never getting hit. He never takes big hits. He picks and chooses his spots because he knows he's too freaking valuable to the Baltimore Ravens. People have been clamoring for weeks. Dak Prescott's the MVP. Brock Purdy's the MVP. No. Lamar Jackson's the MVP. And it's not close. It is not particularly close between those two quarterbacks and Lamar Jackson. He is carrying this franchise in a lot of different ways. The Baltimore Ravens are a good organization. They have a really good defense and a good head coach. But I should say he's carrying this offense. J.K. Dobbins is out. People forget about that. Out at the first game of the season, tore his Achilles. Mark Andrews breaks his leg, if I'm not mistaken. Brings in Isaiah Likely. It's fine. Just turn Isaiah Likely into a all-pro looking tight end. Rashad Bateman has had some spurts in which he's looked good and playable. Zay Flowers has turned into a really good deep threat for Lamar Jackson. And Odell Beckham Jr. having a career renaissance with the Baltimore Ravens. It's insane. It's a little bit Russell Wilson. I know people like to harp on Russell Wilson and rag on Russell Wilson and talk about how he's not a very good quarterback and it was all the system or whatever it was. But Russell Wilson in his time with the Seattle Seahawks was making guys like Colby Parkinson's look really good. Or Will Dissly at one point had like 8 touchdowns. Tyler Lockett was seen as a gadget wide receiver from Kansas. More of like or Kansas State. More of like a punt return specialist, a deep threat third or fourth wide receiver. He turned him into a legitimate number 2 wide receiver. DK Metcalf fell in the draft. My Arizona Cardinals took Andy Isabella from Grambling State over DK Metcalf. There was something with DK that just didn't work out. Russell Wilson made it work. So there's a credit to Russell Wilson there. Maybe it's the Seahawks culture. Maybe I'm giving Russell Wilson too much credit. But it's a little bit the same way with Lamar Jackson. He's never had elite weapons, ever. He's ever had elite weapons. And he's turned into an elite quarterback. And he's without a doubt, there's literally no arguing this anymore. He's a top 4 quarterback, maybe the 3rd best quarterback in the NFL. Some people would take Josh Allen over him. I wouldn't yet. My top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL go Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. My top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL now go Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. If anyone has anything different than those 4, you're just wrong. You're not understanding the game, or you have an agenda. And this is something I mentioned earlier in the year. I said there's a mystery team. I said it before the NFL season, and I said everyone is looking over. They're not looking at this team as a Super Bowl contender, and I said there is a dark horse Super Bowl contender that no one is looking at. No one is paying attention to. And I said it was the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. I said it was because of their weapons. Obviously, some of those are gone now, but I never understood the idea and ideology of passing up on Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens. It's a well-run organization with an elite-level quarterback now, a great defense, an elite defense at this point, and good enough weapons to get through. They're going to make the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson's going to win the MVP, and I believe that at the end of this season, they are going to be, and they absolutely will be, the Super Bowl champions of the 2023-2024 NFL season. Because Lamar Jackson is firmly in the spot of a top 4 quarterback in the NFL now after what he's done to Brock Purdy and Tua Tagovailoa and the San Francisco 49ers and the Miami Dolphins, just dismantling both of those teams with worse weapons, one of them as an underdog, one of them as a couple of point favorite, with a head coach that was a special teams coordinator. He was not an offensive guy, although John Harbaugh is a good head coach. Lamar Jackson has shellacked both those teams, and he separated himself, to which the MVP competition now, the MVP discussion, it's not even a discussion anymore. No one actually thinks that has a brain cell that Lamar Jackson is not the MVP. No one actually thinks, who's been watching the games, that Lamar Jackson is not the MVP. He's a solidified, bona fide top 4 quarterback in the NFL. He needs to exercise some of those demons in the playoffs, which I believe he will. But the top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL now, firmly, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Order them in any way you want. That's the way I would order them, but order them in any way you want. It's those 4 guys, the Grand Canyon, and then whoever the heck else. Lamar Jackson has separated himself this season, and he's going to win his 2nd MVP.